While Chicago Bears training camp is now on day 3, there's tons of excitement and reasons for it around the Chicago Bears. But one Bears insider points out that Caleb Williams may have been even better than what the Chicago Bears are really letting on. We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, we're going to talk about how a full season of Montez Sweat and him being into training camp can drastically help the Chicago Bears team start off the season where the defense left off last season. We'll talk about all that and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into it for today. So I want to start off talking about Shane Waldron's comments in regards to the starting center position and how it correlates with Caleb Williams being comfortable with those starting centers as well. He says this: we have a great competition right there with two players that can start in this league. We've got two guys that are just great pros and have a great overall understanding of it. Caleb's got a great comfort level with either or right there. He's at the point of the learning process where he's worried about his own area right there, and he grows and continues to learn the offense and the system. He'll have input as we go, I'm sure. And that raises a couple of questions there, right? In the sense that we talked a little bit about it on yesterday's live stream, is that Caleb Williams being in sync with that starting center is something that the Bears offense, it can help the Bears offense just go over some of the minor miscues of things, right? When we saw the last couple of seasons, when it was Justin Fields and the other starting centers of Lucas Patrick, Mustapher, whoever was starting at that center position, we saw times where even the snap count, they couldn't get on the same page of the snap count, right? So you want that starting center to be in sync with Caleb Williams, and that may be also a determining factor in that. Now, I don't know if Caleb Williams is going to get the overall say on whoever he's comfortable with and say that that's the starting center. But when you hear Shane Waldron saying that Caleb will have input as we go along, to me, I take that as a really good sign that not only do you feel confident in either player, but you feel so confident in Caleb Williams' grasp of what the offense needs that you're giving him an input on who's going to be snapping him the ball. And while that does sound like a very simple thing that should happen anyway, it's not always that simple. And so I think that what we've seen through this process is that the Bears are trusting Caleb Williams. We keep hearing, even throughout, the training camp, and hearing that maybe the Bears offense hasn't looked the best in 2-minute drills and the defense is ahead of them. One thing that has been a consistent message that we've heard from everyone, from insiders to Bears, coaches and things like that, is that Caleb Williams is commanding the huddle. And Caleb Williams, and that goes a long route of getting your offense all on the same page. Even Keenan Allen, coming in and saying that, he's trying to teach or trying to kind of help Caleb Williams get over that curve with kind of telling him things that he saw Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert go through, right? And what's helped them over that time. And so surrounding Caleb Williams with veterans, especially wide receivers, veterans, and, even having tight ends with what Cole Kmet, even though he's really still young, and Gerald Everett and what they've been through, and both being familiar with the system like this, it's all going to help that curve of Caleb Williams. And that's what you're really hoping for Caleb, is how much of that rookie curve that is going to be there for him can he overcome through going through training camps, through going through this preseason, through going through these reps, and how much does that team help support him in that so that he can be the best version of Caleb Williams. Now, in talking about what the best version of Caleb is, we got to talk about Adam Hoge and his comments in regards to it, saying that, hey, man, that Caleb Williams could even be better than what we're hearing. Now, I haven't been in any training camp. My boy Pat, the designer, has been. Me and him talk about it. We'll talk through this. But Adam Hoge saying this: from the regard, I've been impressed through 2 practices. Eberflus, offensive coordinator Shane Waldron, and running back DeAndre Swift have all come out and said rookie quarterback Caleb Williams has improved since the spring. Caleb did a great job ending OTAs and then showing up back here at training camp a step ahead of where he left. That's from Shane Waldron. Shows that he did a great job during his time away from the building, owning the offense, understanding different calls, and coming out here the first 2 practices operating at a much higher level than what we left. My eyes, this goes back to Hoge, my eyes back up, and what's been said in the process conference room, it's been a smooth operation of the offense through 2 days, with only a couple of hiccups, including one false start on Sunday, but no practice is going to be perfect, and the mistakes have been extremely limited, which is especially notable considering Williams worked with 2 different centers the last 2 days. So it seems like there is a big level of confidence that Caleb Williams, it's the mentality part of it, right? And while we haven't talked a lot about Caleb Williams as the athlete and what he can do with his legs, because, I think that this offense isn't going to be built around that. He's going to have opportunities where plays break down, that he has to make plays with his legs. But Caleb Williams, the Bears are hoping and wanting him to come into this and be the quarterback that they need him to be. And part of that is understanding the playbook. Part of that is understanding where and when to go and where your teammates like to receive their passes and things like that, which is something that both Keenan Allen and DJ Moore have already talked about, that Caleb Williams has specifically asked them that type of thing. So coming into this learning experience where some rookie quarterbacks don't start right away and they're able to kind of learn by watching, learn by the playbook by sitting on the sideline. Caleb Williams is in a situation where he's going to try to do all that while starting, while playing, while trying to get a team that is set to that is focused on winning games this season while doing that. And we'll see how successful they are in that. The Bears and Caleb Williams are in that, but there's a lot of sign of positivity, a lot of sign of growth here, and that everything that we continue to hear about Caleb Williams has been amazing. And let's just hope that that continues, man. Let's hope that the growth and development of Caleb through this period, because we don't have as long anymore. We are playing our first preseason game in like 10 days. 10 days is basically when we're playing the first preseason game. So like it's and not to say that Caleb Williams is going to play a whole hell of a lot, right, over that time. Matt Eberflus has repeatedly talked about like 50 to 65 snaps, something like that, reps that he's going to get in there. And that's not a whole lot. It sounds like a lot more than what it is, but that's really not a whole lot. But, to just hear that we have that quarterback that is embracing that is, to quote, is owning that process. That's something that's great. And we know that Caleb is motivated to be one of the greats. And he's not going to do that if he doesn't learn and grasp and becomes that leader right away. That does not mean that he's not going to have the normal rookie mistakes. He is going to. And it could be completely possible that Caleb Williams just has a rookie season. I know some Bears fans are going to completely go throw a tizzy if that happens and, we made the wrong decision and all the knee-jerk reactions. But overall, it's how he learns. And part of that for some players is the whole first season is a learning curve. Now, I don't expect that from Caleb Williams, and you shouldn't. But overall, we'll see what it brings. But there should be, and there is, tons and tons and tons of excitement around Caleb Williams, and to hear everybody, right, has talked about his growth. In the offense, it's behind the defense. That's fine. We talked about that and why that shouldn't be too concerning when you have a defense that's returning most of its starters in an offense with a new system, new coach, tons of new weapons, and a rookie quarterback. So, you want to hear from practice right now that the offense is behind the defense, but the fact that the defense isn't holding anything back on them either, and Caleb Williams has that full playbook, I think that that's a sign that the Bears offense is going to trend in the right direction. The bigger question is how long does it take for them to all get on the same page and congeal like we need them to? I've said it with our bye week being in week 7. I would hope that after that point, right, because that gives you 6 weeks of football, right, to plan, to learn, and to get all on the same page. And that it may not even take that long. But after that bye week in week 7, that's where I really want to start seeing the full potential of what this offense can be next season. And you guys, as always, can let me know how you guys feel on that down below. Now, with that said, with training camp, there's always a player or two that ends up surprising. And what we've heard out of training camp is a surprise name in this, and a name that I didn't expect to be talking about at all. And that's Colin Johnson being one of the players to watch in this. When you look at Colin Johnson and his makeup, he's 26 years old, 6'6", 222 pounds, and he does offer a different physical style than what some of the other wide receivers have. Now, make no mistake about it. In no way am I saying that Colin Johnson is going to come in and earn or pass up Tyler Scott or anything on the depth chart. But when you're looking at players, what Bobby worded it a great way in yesterday's live stream. He said, you want players that can be in rhythm, right? And so Colin Johnson, a player that is primarily probably going to be on special teams, right? And he could offer some different looks because of the other smaller wide receivers that we have on this roster with Tyler Scott and things like that, that it could be that if he can get in rhythm and be on that special teams, not saying that he's necessarily going to be one of win the punt return job or anything like that, or even not necessarily saying that he's guaranteed to make that final 53-man roster. But to hear that somebody like Colin Johnson has stood out, you can take that either as, oh, that's bad. If we brought in Ian Willer, we got Velus Jones here. If Colin Johnson's the one that's standing out, even if it is just in special teams, that's a little bit of a concern here. But here's what I'll say. If you look at the combination of both, him being a secondary return man, but then on top of that, the fact that he is a different physical makeup than Dante Pettis and Velus Jones and Tyler Scott, that extra size could be used in some situations. Now, again, he's going to have a long path to make that final 53-man roster because even if you do need size, you got Gerald Everett, you got Cole Kmet, who was a pseudo second wide receiver last year. So you can use those guys. But to hear that a player like Colin Johnson maybe want to watch out for as we're looking for storylines and things, especially with preseason, you're not going to see your starters all throughout the time, all throughout the time and every day and stuff like that. Like, he's going to get an opportunity in special teams. He's probably going to get an opportunity to be one of those wide receivers that Tyson Bagent's going to be throwing to when the starters aren't in there. So those are always things to look at as well over that time period. So just keep that name, Colin Johnson. Keep that name in the back of your head, and we'll see what comes along with that. But all right, moving into the next topic, the last one for today before we get into one voicemail we got to play, is Montez Sweat. We know that the Sweat effect was what we talked a lot about last year, and we know that after the acquisition of Montez Sweat, how much that changed, right? And hearing that, we've heard that Montez Sweat coming in here, he's really excited about what he's been able to do as well. Sweat saying this, it's completely different. I'm talking about him starting off this season rather than coming in the middle of the season. It's completely different. We're starting from the ground, from install one. So instead of coming in with the playbook where everybody around me already knows what they're doing, I'm actually learning it with them, going through the process and actually bringing some knowledge that I have from last year into this year. And so Montez Sweat has already embraced a role of being a leader for the Chicago Bears team. When you hear him talking about Javon Dexter, motivating that guy, Montez Sweat is coming in here and almost instantaneously being that leader, not just a great player, because sometimes your players that produce aren't necessarily your leaders, right? But being a leader on that defensive line. And I've talked a lot about how at every level of the defense, you have a veteran there who's going to be helping to be the leader. That defensive line, it's Montez Sweat. And a little bit as well as, DeMarcus Walker and what he's done and being a veteran over his career, but it's mainly Montez Sweat. And then linebacking core, you have TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds who can be leaders there. But TJ Edwards, especially as a Bears-type linebacker, him and how boisterous he is. And then, of course, in that secondary, you got Jalen Johnson stepping into that with a young secondary around him. Kevin Byard, he's new here, though. He's stepping into a leadership role as well. So having that is going to be really important for what this team is going to be going forward. And having Montez Sweat there to be there at the beginning of this process is huge. And, you hear Matt Eberflus talk about the conditioning, saying he came back in great condition. That's the number one thing. He looks like he's in great shape. Montez Sweat now has had time this offseason and throughout this training camp period to understand a better synergy with the other people on that defensive line, right? Even having a new defensive coordinator in Eric Washington come in, but you still got Matt Eberflus there who's still going to be calling plays, who called plays last year. It's a learning curve for everyone. But having Sweat there not only ups the expectations of that defensive line, but it also ups the competition, right? And so having Sweat there now, from, as he said, install number one, from the ground up process of what this offseason has been, is a real different kind of task than what he and role that he did coming in last year. Last year he had to come in, he had to learn the playbook, but he basically got to just be him. And overall, you got to still see now of that leadership role and how he motivates and guides and leads people. That's going to be a big thing as well that we say there. So we'll see, man. Overall, love the fact that we do have Montez Sweat there now since the beginning of the season, and we're going to continue to see how it develops. Now, I know I said that was the last topic that we had before we get into the mailbag. There actually is one more, and this is something that, I monitor, right? I kind of have kept in line in what all the national publications have said about the Chicago Bears. The USA Today predicted the Chicago Bears to make the playoffs this year. And a direct quote from them saying this: the narrative that number one overall pick has entered a more favorable situation in common draft area than Caleb Williams, we're buying it. The 2022 Heisman Trophy winner is surrounded by weapons on offense and is supported by a defense that found its footing following last year's midseason trade for Montez Sweat. Williams obviously has no role for the club that won 4 of its final 6 games, had no role in the club that won 4 of its final 6 games in 2023, but he's got a great chance to sustain that momentum given Chicago plays the league's easiest schedule, aside from NFC South teams, And if you count San Francisco, Brock Purdy in 2022 could well make it 4 seasons in a row that a rookie quarterback has led a team to the postseason. So, hey, we'll see what happens to it, man. Now, they do predict the Bears to lose to the Packers. That's what it comes down to. But they do have this Bears team going 9-8 and making the playoffs. And we've talked about that. 9-10 wins is kind of the best case scenario for the Bears, I think, right? When you look at everything and how it's working out. And we'll see what comes down with that. I think ultimately when you look at the Bears, as I've said before, we are not just rebuilding anymore. We are building, but wins are one of the most important things for this team heading into next season. And this is a team with that defense and with the weapons that we have on offense. There's no reason not to believe that we can compete and contend for a playoff spot. We got to see how it's all going to come together, as a caveat that I'm always going to throw out in situations like this. But overall, I do think that this is going to be a fun Bear season is what I'll say, man. But let's go ahead and get into the voicemail, man, that we got for today. This one's from Greedy.
Yeah, this Greedy again, man. To y'all at Chicago Bears Central, man. I just want to let y'all know that my question is, what y'all think the total is? You know, it's training camp. I know it's a little bit too soon. We got like a month before the season starts, but I want to know, like, how many wins you think the Bears could pull out this season, man. I think they could pull out double-digit wins, man. And for the people that said that, like, you know, that's coming on Caleb about asking for, like, you know, his contract and wanting to pull himself as an LLC, man, you got to think about it from Caleb's perspective, man. If you a quarterback, right, and they trying to pay you $40 million, and they only got tax on top of that $40 million, you know what I'm saying? And you see people like Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, they finna get damn near $30 million, you know what I'm saying? So what would you rather have, you know what I'm saying? You don't want to get that money. You want to get paid as soon as possible, man. You like, man, I'm about to ball out, get $30 million, you know what I'm saying? Because you see people like, man, they gave Daniel Jones a fat, man, Kirk Cousins a fat contract. Man, he getting $40 million. He supposed to be the next Mahomes. So what you think your mindset is? You know what I'm saying? That's what I want to just, you know, I heard Fred call in. I just want to, you know, Fred, you got to think about it from that perspective. Like, man, I'm thinking about being that man. Y'all going to have to pay me. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to be on no 5th-year tag. And you're going to be paying me $25. I'm trying to get that bankroll. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So, I look at it from that perspective. But I think we're going to be good this season, man. It's good that, like, Javon Dexter looking good, man. And I just want to say, man, to all Chicago Bears fans, man, it's been a long time coming, but we here. You know what I'm saying? Bear down, man.
Listen, I love everything that you said there. I think that when it comes down to it, and I know Fred is always fired up. The one thing about Fred is I don't think that I've ever heard Fred leave a positive voicemail. Fred's just fired, and I get it, right? That's not even a shot at Fred. That's more so a thing of that's what we've just been through as Chicago Bears fans for years at this point. It's really hard not to look at anything and everything that you hear kind of take as a negative. But here's what I'll say. When it comes to Caleb, those other quarterbacks that you mentioned, they earned it. And when it comes down to it, it's about earning it. Yeah, okay, you asked for the not have the chance to be no franchise tag. The Bears deny it. Ask for whatever you asked for. Caleb already said that it was basically his lawyers and his dad that were leading those proceedings. That sounds like something a lawyer would have asked for. Hey, by the way, that clause there, that section C, hey, can we get that out? No? Okay, bet. That's really what I think it came down to. I don't think it came down to like this huge negotiation or this huge thing where it's like, well, we're not going to sign and this, and this. If you guys don't put in a clause to not be franchise tagged, no, the Bulls would be absolutely idiotic to do it. But when it comes down to it, Caleb is thinking about the future. We've always heard that he does care about legacy. That is something that he does care about, and he's caring about that at the onset and start of his NFL career. But when it comes down to it, you got to earn it through your play. And that's just it. Earn it through your play. If you earn it through your play, the money's going to be there. So, no, I don't take it no way. I'm not all up in arms or upset. Yes, if you look around the league, quarterbacks that play well, even quarterbacks, just get your team to the quarterback. I mean, get your team to the playoffs. You get paid. So it's no doubt in the mind, and it shouldn't be. If you perform, you're going to get paid. But performance needs to be the thing. And to the credit from a lot of the Bears pundits and things that we've heard, Caleb Williams he's kind of been focused on just what he can do on that football field for the Chicago Bears team. Let's hope that we move forth into a new section and generation of Bears where we actually are starting to start talking about solid quarterback play and winning games and winning playoffs. Can we go far? Can we go on some playoff runs? Can we get that? That's what I care about. But you guys, as always, can let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you guys are following the show at Shy Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, chicagobearcentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. And like I like to end everything on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.